Heyo, and welcome back. Today I want to talk a little bit about my philosophy of rapid prototyping and 3D CAD and printing. Now, just because 3D printing is quote-unquote rapid prototyping doesn't mean it happens very quickly. In fact, it's somewhat notoriously slow for certain things, like when you're doing a control panel that's just a flat piece of material with some holes drilled in it. It's actually somewhat slower than, say, a laser cutter or the like. But because, you can actually do more than just something simple and flat like this, like, for example, this control panel, that was version 1, and version 2, which has everything wired on it at the moment, I was actually able to incorporate these two little brackets that hold the speaker and the LEDs in place, added minimally to the time to print the piece, and simplified mounting everything. So if we, let's go ahead and set that back aside. Now let's talk for a moment about the case. So the big old case part, right? Now this is version 1. It had, the idea was that it would hold a 9-volt battery there, and obviously that didn't work too well. And this took 6-8 hours to print, even at sort of low resolution settings. One of the things I was worried about was this opening matching this and being able to line all that up. So before I went about printing a whole box with a messed up opening, the first thing I wanted to do was print that particular shape, and so I did that as a separate little piece that was originally just designed to make sure that I could test that layout of the holes, and that worked well, although I have it on upside down, of course. That worked out well. It only takes 20-30 minutes to print something like this, and then I can test out all these dimensions before I print it in the big box. It actually turns out to be somewhat useful for this part, because once we mount that into there, we can push that part onto there and make a sort of little brace part for it, if you will. And then to make sure everything ties down nicely, I have a couple of other little parts. Oh, there they go, running all over the place. But this is a little washer, a thick washer, if you will, and then these sort of thin washers that go on top. And then when I put the bolts through, that'll hold everything in nice and tight. So these parts could have been reincorporated into this design, and if I duplicated this design several times over, I probably would, just to have fewer individual parts to keep track of. And that wouldn't take terribly much longer to print either, like that. But for this version, I'm just going to keep it like that. Now this, like I said, was version 1 of the box. Not only did it managed to handle this part very well, but what it didn't do was manage the battery very well, nor did it manage to be a decent carrier for the Arduino carrier board, which just, floats around in there, kind of annoying. So we took the notes from that, and we created version 2, and version 2, again, a little better on the battery holder, not quite as loose, but most importantly, it had Arduino pegs, and so that's nice and firmly held in place. And then once I melt those pegs down, kind of like rivets, the board was not going to go anywhere. So I like that. I also took the time to put in a reset button. This one didn't have the reset button. But I'm dealing with all these wires with the control panel. this whole wire nest of mess. I figure once I put this in there, I'm not going to want to take it out to change the battery. So instead, what I wanted to do was create a battery box in here. Let's print out an example battery box. So I actually designed this in to go into where this battery holder was. I actually designed it into the box and then chopped it out and in there nicely. Turns out it's a little too weak on the lip. I tore out that lip part pretty early, and the battery's pretty snug once you put the actual clip on there. So again, redesign this piece and cut it out and print it separately. Made it a good bit longer so that once the battery clip is added, it's not so hard to take the battery out. And we then just decided I'm going to go with a double lid like that with 2 screws. I don't imagine I'm going to use this awful lot and have to change the battery out. But that means that this battery box gets incorporated into version 3 of the whole box. And that's this. So here we go. We got our battery box already incorporated in. Our board alignment pegs, power switch, reset button, plug in the back, and everything's nicely lined up and ready to go for final assembly. We'll do that final assembly in the next quick video, mostly going to be time-lapse, I'm pretty sure. Just thought I'd give you that little bit of insight on how to maximize your rapid prototyping by minimizing your test pieces. Thanks for watching. Bye!